What's up, everybody? Welcome. I'm Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy and single game $1 million winner. Here today with a quick video for some NFL DFS picks, some lineup advice for tonight's Showdown slate on FanDuel and DraftKings between the Rams and the Ravens. If you're not already, please click that subscribe button to be notified when our latest videos come out. And let's jump into it. So tonight, interesting slate. We're going to do a 10-minute video. So we'll see how much information we can pack into 10 minutes for this slate. Pretty interesting. And I think we'll jump into it by saying, look at Lamar Jackson. This is going to be the key to the slate. Lamar Jackson on DraftKings is $3,400 more than the next most expensive player, Mark Ingram, at $13.6K. If we look on FanDuel, Lamar Jackson is $3,000 more, which is insane for FanDuel as they price players in $500 increments. So at $3,000 more, and he's roughly $1,500 more than the highest players normally are. Normally the top quarterbacks are $16K on FanDuel. He's $17.5. So a lot of decisions to be made. I'm not sure how people are going to handle it tonight. However, what I do know is that 3 weeks ago, the Ravens played the Patriots in primetime, Sunday night, and Lamar Jackson was about $2,000 cheaper, 11.4K on DraftKings roughly. And despite playing what the public knows as the best defense in the league, he was still 75% owned, one of the highest captains. So tonight, despite the price increase, it doesn't matter. We've seen Patrick Mahomes near these price levels, and he's been 90% owned, 30% captain. I think we can expect that tonight for Lamar Jackson in high-risk contests. Low-risk contests, which are going to be very difficult tonight, you should probably want to get him into your captain spot, as his rushing floor and his passing efficiency has been through the roof, which gives him one of the best projections, obviously, which is why he's priced so high. However, if you try to do that in low risk, let's take a look at what you're able to do. So let's say we start with Lamar Jackson at captain. As you know, at Occupy Fantasy, we like to fit in all the touchdown scorers from both sides. That means both quarterbacks, both running backs. If we tried to do that tonight, pretty much impossible. Leaves us with $1,100 left over. So we either have to not use Lamar Jackson at captain. Seems pretty dangerous. 2, leave out one of Ingram, Goff, Gurley. Now, there may be some merit to that. Ingram has only had 20 or more touches in 2 games this year, but his efficiency has exploded with the threat of Lamar Jackson's running. Todd Gurley, 75% of the snaps the last 2 weeks, but as we know, has been not his usual role the previous 8 weeks. So could certainly see, especially if this game gets out of hand, which it may not be, just 3.5-point spread for the Ravens. Jared Goff, 18 pass attempts last week. If they're trying to control the clock and take the ball out of Goff's hands, then he would be the guy you fade, if that's what you believe. But again, the Ravens' offensive firepower may dictate otherwise. Or like we said, you could use Lamar Jackson not as your captain, which is pretty dangerous as he has the highest expectation on the slate. So to me, initially, this looks like a very, 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 very tough low-risk night, and maybe we avoid it altogether. What about on FanDuel, which we know is generally tougher in low risk anyways? So if we go Lamar Jackson at MVP, that leaves us with $10,000 left over. Okay, the running backs and quarterbacks are the most expensive people on the slate. That leaves us with $500 left over. We obviously cannot do that. So we absolutely have to fade one of these guys on FanDuel in low risk. But again, there's no true value. There's no committee running back. There's no underpriced receiver. It's nearly impossible. Let's see. Let's fit in a couple kickers. Like, that's gross. That's super gross. That is not a low-risk lineup by any means. It would probably have to be a double kicker lineup in some capacity, which sounds ridiculous. So, advice tonight, unless something changes heavily over the next 8 hours, 10 hours, we advise that you probably do not play low-risk contests tonight. It looks like a high-risk exclusive night, and as a result, we probably want to lower our bankroll some. Can't expose a ton if we're playing exclusively high-risk contests. So I know it's a showdown slate. I know it's a primetime slate. We want to get our money in where we can. However, Thanksgiving slate is coming up, which, by the way, will have content. I'm going to try to do videos for each of the 3 showdown slates on the Thanksgiving day by Wednesday, hopefully. So, like I said, be sure to subscribe to make sure you get our videos for that. So there's going to be tons of casual players playing on Thanksgiving, which means pretty good opportunities for us. Let's not jam all of our money into one night, especially when the plays and the prices aren't dictating it. So, assuming we do play high-risk contests tonight, what does that mean? Well, we already said Lamar Jackson's anticipated to be the highest owned captain. Probably going to be 30% owned, despite his price, which means at that crazy of a price tag, at that high of ownership, a lot of lineups are going to look really similar. So we can easily differentiate ourselves by 1, not using Lamar Jackson, and 2, leaving salary on the table. So, and again, you probably still want to use Lamar Jackson as a flex option, just not in your MVP spot. Like, again, he's going to be 90% owned. You know, you can still use him 70, 80, 90% of your lineups. If you play one lineup, you can still use him. It's fine. I mean, the rushing floor is just insane. Outside of week 1, where they blew out the Dolphins and he didn't have to do anything, he's averaging nearly 90 rushing yards per game. Leads the league in, he's tied with Russell Wilson in passing touchdown rate, touchdowns per pass attempts. So just an insane, efficient year from Lamar Jackson. But again, he's going to have a massive game at captain for him to pay off, which he certainly can. But at 30% captain ownership or potentially more, we're not betting on it. So who would you use instead? This game total is right on that line of high total versus low total. And if you followed us before, you know that, or if you've read our daily plug before, which is our write-up that details every play on the showdown slate, talks about high-risk and low-risk strategy, you know that games with totals 47 or higher, generally pass catchers are the preferred captains or MVPs. They're the most likely to be the MVP. Look at last night. George Kittle is considered a pass catcher at tight end, highest scorer on the slate. In lower total games, below 47, then you want to use a running back generally. Quarterbacks go over-owned most of the time, and you probably don't want to use them in your high-risk lineups. So this is right on the edge. We'll see how the line moves throughout the day. But I would lean towards a pass catcher in high-risk contests. So who does that mean? Cooper Kupp. Pretty weird for him. So Brandon Cooks has been out the last couple of games. Robert Woods missed the last game. And despite those guys being out, Gerald Everett was limited last game. Despite all those guys being out, Cooper Kupp has only had a 19% target share the last 3 weeks, which is way down from his 27% target share when those guys were in the lineup the first 8 weeks of the season. So which Cooper Kupp do we see tonight? I imagine we see pretty heavy volume. I would bet he's a top 3 play in our model, our real-time player dashboard. So as you can see, just 8.3 total DraftKings points over the last 2 weeks. After multiple 20-point performances early in the season, the model is expecting Kupp to get back to these performances. So he would be a preferred option. Jared Goff actually will go under-owned as captain. You know, we generally don't like to use captains, quarterbacks as captains, but expect him to be under 10% owned as a captain on DraftKings. FanDuel, still less. You know, Deshaun Watson was 50% as the MVP a couple slates ago. Expect Lamar Jackson to be 50%, if not more, on FanDuel as the MVP. So that means suppressed MVP ownership for other players, including Goff. Now, Goff rated really highly in our model tonight and dug a bit deeper. And the reason why is the fact that the Ravens are the second most heavy blitz team in the league, right after the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Despite blitzing a lot, they don't actually generate a ton of pressure on the quarterback. Middle of the pack. The issue is, of course, Goff is dealing with lots of offensive line issues. He's seen a big drop-off in his efficiency versus the blitz and under pressure this year compared to last year, especially versus the blitz. So we'll see. With the week to prepare, with hopefully no in-game offensive line injuries, maybe Sean McVay can scheme some plays for Goff. Now, the reason we like this matchup for Goff with that blitz heavy package from the Ravens the only team that blitzes more than the Ravens are the Buccaneers. And the Rams have faced the Bucs already once this season. And in that game, despite attempting a bajillion passes, Jared Goff actually had his highest yards per attempt, completed 66% of his passes, which is higher than his 60% rate for the season. So an above average game for Goff. We're expecting similar tonight. People are going to look at Goff and saw that he attempted 18 passes last week. They're going to look at his 11 total passing touchdowns this year and not be thrilled to play him against a defense that is streaking since the addition of Marcus Peters. So suppressed ownership, high ranking in the model, good matchup from a blitz perspective. We like Goff to overperform his ownership tonight. Robert Woods, questionable to play, has been dealing with a family matter, and we expect him to suit up. He came back to practice last week. Keep an eye on it, though. If he does not play, Josh Reynolds will be the number 3 receiver, as Brandon Cooks is also returning from his concussion. So 3 guys who should see a decent amount of volume in this offense are in play for captain. The weird thing about this slate, again, I know we're coming up on this 10-minute mark, but the Ravens just don't have a ton of volume. You know, the last 3 weeks, Mark Andrews leads the team in targets with 21. The next closest are Marquise Brown and Nick Boyle with 15 each. Mark Ingram, like we said earlier, doesn't get a ton of carries, has been efficient with them. He's doubled his career touchdown rate this year, despite, only getting 20 or more touches in 2 games. So not a lot of volume. What may happen is we may have 2 guys from the Ravens and 4 guys from the Rams, given their volume and their prices. I mean, Lamar and Ingram are the 2 highest price guys. Andrews the 3rd highest price guys. So despite not a ton of volume, they still have 3 of the top 4 players. So it's really weird slate from that perspective. Very easily, Woods, Cooks, Goff, Gurley, Kupp could be highest scorers on the slate, either after Lamar or in front of Lamar. So even though a game where Baltimore is expected to win, it could very easily be a slate where you have a Rams onslaught, 5 Rams, 1 Raven, or 4 Rams, 2 Ravens, and that'd be the optimal lineup even in a Ravens win. So it's very interesting to me. One other guy to talk about, we mentioned Nick Boyle briefly. He actually has the same amount of air yards as Marquise Brown over the last 3 weeks, which is something you would never expect. Boyle has played season highs and snaps each of the last 3 weeks since the bye week. Clearly a role change in this offense for him. He's probably too cheap, given his new role. All right, so lots of things to think about for this slate. Again, probably not a great low-risk night. High risk is where you want to go, which means maybe 1%, maybe 2% of your bankroll. Try to get some satellite tickets for Thanksgiving. Play some 100-player leagues. Play some maxed GPPs. Play some multipliers. Tough slate, but I think a lot of people end up doing the same thing, which is great for us when we want to pivot away in high-risk contests. All right, to get our full thoughts in detail, you want to check out OccupyFantasy.com. The daily plug is posted by 2 p.m. Eastern on OccupyFantasy.com for members only. Again, it details all the players on the slate and then gives a recommended strategy for low-risk contests if we decide to go that route, and recommended captains and high-risk strategy, as well as contests to target and satellites to target for tonight's slate. So OccupyFantasy.com, check that out. Our Occupy model is updated throughout the day. It's our real-time player dashboard, ranks every player, FanDuel, and DraftKings. Perfect for showdown slates. If you haven't already, please click the subscribe button below. Helps us out, lets you know when we have a new video. And if you like this video, give us a thumbs up. If you have any questions about tonight's slate or feedback on how we can improve the videos, comment below, and we'll get back to you before the slate starts tonight. Happy to answer any questions you do have. We got about 10 hours from the time this video is posted, so get those questions in, and we'll answer them for you for sure. So follow me on Twitter at Brian Jester FF. Follow us on Twitter at Occupy Fantasy. We appreciate you listening today. Good luck. We'll talk to you soon.